Hello nerds! No special intro today because we've already done this. Yep, we already have a Shadow Priest guide, and it was actually the first guide that we've made for this season. It actually came out before the raid came out, so today is going to be an update. And just a short disclaimer, I won't go into the advanced things, but I will go over a refresher on the basics, so you will learn about the talents, gear and rotation, and a few tips to go along with you going into raids and Mythic Plus with your Shadow Priest guide. Of course, all of this going into 8.2. Currently there are no updates on Shadow for 8.2, but once they're live, make sure to check the comment section down below because I will keep you guys up to date. With that being said, let's kick it off with the talents. The difference between raiding and Mythic Plus talent is not substantial. The talent you will be picking will depend on your content. Is it AoE or single target? And that can be either for Mythics or raids. As such, let's check the actual picks. First row, take Shadow Word Void. This won't be changed no matter what content you do. It works really well with the lack of mobility Shadow has because you can easily break a cast to move out of stuff and not lose out too much because you have 2 charges. Second row, Body and Soul, always as well, is the only mobility we will ever have, and we can also apply it to our group members. Not much to say otherwise. Third row is where you will have to choose between single target and AoE options. For single target, pick Twist of Fate. This will offer you decent execute windows where you will deal 10% more damage and healing if you damage a target below 35% health. The AoE option will be Dark Void, which will generate a lot of insanity and also apply Shadow Word Pain to enemies around your target. Next row is a utility row. By default, pick Psychic Horror, which is useful on ads and can be CC'd. Last Word is also good, making your interrupt more reliable, but at the end of the day, your group should not have to rely on your interrupt too much. If you're playing with a group of casters, or you just need more interrupts, Last Word is a viable pick. Level 75, we get Auspicious Spirits. This talent smooths our rotation and transition to and from Void form. The other talents on the row are focused on making your Void form stronger, while Lingering Insanity lets you get more Void forms in a fight, plus the fact that you won't feel useless outside your major cooldown is a big plus for me when playing any DPS spec. Last row, take Legacy of the Void as the most reliable DPS output on the row. It synergizes really well with Lingering Insanity. It also provides more Void forms overall and consistent DPS output. Dark Ascension still remains better for on-demand AoE burst, but as a default I would recommend Legacy of the Void. The stat weights don't change very much, unless you'll be leaning hard on a specific one. Of course, if you are interested in getting the most bang for your buck, then you will have to sim your stats with tools such as raid bots. The general priority is crit and haste at the top. They sim really close to each other, so prioritize the one you have less of. Next up is mastery close to versatility. Again, also very close to each other. Intellect will fluctuate depending on your gear. If you look at my stats as an example, you can see that crit is at the top because I don't have the necessary breakpoints yet, which is around 18% crit chance minimum, with haste very close behind. The reason versatility is so low for me is because I have a lot of it from my PvP gear. This is an example of how stats can change when you have a lot of a specific one, so sim yourself. Moving on to Trinkets. Crucible hasn't been out for long, yet the new Trinkets are making some noise, although some of them have a few conditions attached. We can check websites such as bloodmallet.com or herodamage.com and see that apart from one, most of them sim pretty well with each other, giving you a lot of freedom when choosing what to pick. There are a few that are usually better, and since it's not ideal for a guide to say just pick whatever, all are good, I will be mentioning 4 trinkets that will get you good results regardless if you're raiding or doing Mythic Plus. Incandescent Sliver is always a top contender for any caster reliant on crit chance. But dear god, is this annoying to maintain. Listen, I'm not saying don't get it, because it's clearly the biggest damage boost you will ever get. But if you don't maintain all the stacks, then it's more of a liability. Anyway, it drops from Opulence. On the subject of Battle for the Zara Lord trinkets, the Conclave drops another good one, Crest of Paku, which is a haste proc trinket. Remember that any stat boost trinket will tip the scales of your stat weights, so make sure to sim once you get one of these. The other two trinkets you can find in dungeons and might be more reliable to farm. Conch of Dark Whispers and Ignition Mage's Fuse are very good contenders. The first can be found in Shrine of the Storm, for which, well, good luck finding a group, while the latter drops in Tol the Gore. And of course, let's check the Azurite Traits. As a general rule of thumb, you can use any of the traits I will mention for both raiding as well as dungeons. However, some will perform better in certain scenarios, so let's check those out. The most important trait you can get and stack 3 times is Spiteful Apparitions, making your shadows deal more damage to targets affected by Vampiric Touch. This works best in raids and dungeons, so everywhere. The other trait you can get and stack twice from what I see people doing is Chorus of Insanity. You stack it only twice to make room for 1-point wonder type traits. Chorus works amazing in both raids and dungeons. Now, your last spot will be different. For raiding, you want Whispers of the Damned that will buff your Mind Blast. Single target situations will be better for this since you won't be casting Mind Blasts when fighting multiple targets as much. In dungeons, you want to fill your last spot with Thought Harvester. This setup is the end game for most Shadow Priests, but it's not set in stone. As an example, when fighting heavy AoE situations, you can add Searing Dialogue as many times as you want, or as many times as you can sim it right. As an example, you can check Shadow Priests doing keys over 20 that use both the Spiteful Apparition setup and Searing Dialogue. The rotation is not very complicated, but it is based on your haste. As such, I will just go over a basic priority system, of which we actually have 2, one when in void form and one when out of it. When you are out of void form, the most important ability to cast is Void Eruption to actually get that void form. If you spec into Dark Void, this is where you cast it with priority. Next on the list is Shadow Fiend, followed by Mind Blast or Shadow Word Void since we have the talent. Maintain Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch. Once all the above are met, use Mind Flay as a filler in single target and Mind Sear in AoE. But we will get into a bit more details as far as AoE is concerned in a minute. When in Void form, Void Bolt is the most important skill to cast. Dark Void after again, but if adds will spawn soon, you can delay it. Shadow Fiend next, followed by Mind Blast or Shadow Word Void. Maintain Pain and Vampiric Touch and or apply them to new targets, finishing it up with our filler Mind Flay or again Mind Sear. Now the reason I said Mind Flay or Mind Sear is that Mind Sear can become more important depending on the number of enemies. When you just have 2 enemies, it simply replaces Mind Flay in the rotation. When you have 6 targets or more, it will replace Shadow Word Void completely, meaning that you will cast Shadow Word Void at 5 targets or less. Another tip to remember is that your filler, usually Mind Flay, can be interrupted if a more important spell has come off cooldown, such as Void Bolt or Mind Blast. And I say Mind Blast, but I'm also referring to its talent upgrade. Use this rule even more strictly when inside Void form. As with most DPS specs, you want to use your stat weights when deciding which enchants, gems and food to use. These will mostly cycle between haste and crit, but if you cannot be bothered with simming, take Pact of Critical Strike for rings and Deadly Amber Blaze for your sockets. The weapon will be Deadly Navigation as well. The reason I'm suggesting crit over haste is that having a good crit base will make the spec feel better and warrant some talent and Azurite choices. But once your crit is high enough, you should consider mixing in the haste variants of these. For food, ideally go with the feast, because 100 intellect will always be better than 70 crit, which you can still get if you cannot use feasts. And to nobody's surprise, the flask will be intellect, as well as the battle potion. Although an argument can be made for Potion of Rising Death for single target and when you can maintain constant range of your target. That's a bit more niche though, so maybe keep it for last once you are sure of everything about the encounter. I will give a big shout out to the Priest Discord channel and the warcraftpriests.com website for supplying a lot of the nuanced information about Shadow. Information that would have probably taken me weeks or months of playing Shadow constantly to come up with. If you guys want more in-depth things about Shadow, make sure to check those sources out. If you like Shadow Priest and maybe want to play an alt as another flavor of the month caster, we actually have videos on all of them. Yep, you can check our playlist on guides for Affliction Warlock, Destruction Warlock, Balance Druid, Elemental Shaman, and much more. Massive shout out to our Patreons. We really appreciate your love and interest in our content, and we're super happy that our content actually make you want to support us a little bit more. And if you want to become one of our Patreons, check the details down in the description. Also, we have an Amazon affiliate link that will link you guys to some of our nerdy goodies when it comes to Warcraft and PC. Thanks for watching the video and being awesome, and I'll see you next time.